right, welcome to Retro Game Club episode 1. We survived episode 0 and the winter apocalypse in the Midwest. And this is Hugh and Rob. How's it going, Hugh?
Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm surviving. Crazy weeks. Trying to get through that Wonder Boy game for Switch. Dragon Trap?
Dragon Trap, yeah.
Very good.
That's one of my favorites. I'm huge fan of that game. Now, it's the remake, right? It's not like the Master System or TurboGrafx.
Yeah,
it's the remake.
When I got stuck at one point, and I looked at I had to search for one part in one video. Apparently, I'm the only person in the world that played it in the 8-bit mode. All the videos you find are in the new pretty mode. But yeah, fantastic game. Trying to get through that, and the Katamari reroll for Switch as well.
Yeah, I'm really I get really addicted to those games when I start them.
With the Katamari games?
Yeah. Once I start one, I usually end up playing it a good solid hour a night until I just clear every single level, do all the extra stuff. It's not good, man. It's a good thing they aren't making like a lot of them, because that would pretty much consume my life. They're so addictive. It's just a sort of simple, addictive puzzle game.
I actually stopped playing tonight because my son was watching me play, and he turns 2 in 2 weeks, and he said, "Daddy, can I watch you play Sonic?" And I almost started crying. It's like every nerd dad stream for his son to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, yeah, you mentioned the horrible Midwest weather. So, yeah, I mean, I do tend to play a lot more games in winter than the rest of the year. I started playing, for whatever reason, I started doing another playthrough of Splash Lake. I don't know if it was boredom or like winter insanity.
Yeah.
Because that game is very challenging. And then I realized there are no FAQs or guides to that game anywhere online. So I've been taking screenshots of the game as I go along, and I might end up writing a guide on how to beat each level. I also might get like 3 levels in and then get bored of that idea. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that sounds like a little bit of work, and then you start doing it, and then you're like, oh, this is going to take me the rest of my life.
Yeah.
We don't have yard sales because you'd be crazy to have a yard sale, but we do have estate sales out here right now, and I saw an ad for an estate sale on like this website that tracks estate sales, and there really weren't video games in the ad, but there was a bunch of Star Wars stuff, and people who've listened to me before know my wife is a big collector of Star Wars stuff, and on this estate sale they had all these Burger King Star Wars cups, which we probably all had in 1983 or whenever. I think they were all tied to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
and like you always think you have a complete collection of those until you go to a sale that has them, and then you find a new one almost every time. It seems like they must have made 1,000 different variants of those glasses. Anyhow, went to the estate sale. They did not have the glasses, but they did have a room with some retro game stuff that was not advertised. Except this place did not know what they had at all. So I think they must have they had sort of a cursory understanding that some retro games cost more than others. And like they had a bin of loose Atari 2600 cartridges, and they wanted $20 a piece for loose Atari 2600 cartridges.
Yeah.
And
they haven't gone for those since the 70s, pretty much, right?
Right. And none of these were rare games. It's not like it was Chase the Chuck Wagon and stuff like that. It was literally like Circus Atari. Things that are $1 at Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah, everyone has every one of those games.
Yeah. But because they didn't understand retro game pricing, they had a boxed Microvision for $20 with 3 games.
Have you turned that on yet?
No, because I just ordered batteries for it from Amazon. It came with batteries included, but clearly they did not work because this is a system made in like 1979, and the batteries are from, I'm guessing, 1984.
So they're like proprietary?
No, they're just regular. The regular, the battery that has the 2 holes in the
top.
Yeah,
the 12 volt, yeah.
Yeah, it's just regular battery. There's nothing secret there. I just didn't have any in the house. And like, as much as I want to play the Microvision, I also like being cheap and making Amazon deliver things for free. So I ordered the batteries to make Amazon deliver, send me a whole big box just for 2 batteries.
Yeah. Make UPS driver walk through 2 feet of snow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's look, I'm paying for Prime. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the past, I have found a Microvision box, which was, at the time I thought it was a great find, but there was just the empty box. Then I found one game at a yard sale, and then I asked the people there if they had other games like it, and they had no clue what I was talking about. I don't think they even knew they owned this game, which is weird, but I'm sure anyone that owns a house has gone through their basement or garage and found something they didn't know they owned.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's kind of cool. So it's a complete, like I said, complete system with box. So for people who aren't familiar with it, it is the first cartridge-based handheld system. It's not just before the Game Boy. It's like 10 years before the Game Boy. And it's kind of, it suffers from like literal screen rot, like what the system was made out of can literally rot. Mm-hmm. So I am going to be curious to try it. There's not really like emulators for it. People have done like JavaScript recreations of the games for it, but it's not a system you can emulate.
Well, isn't it like 7 kilohertz? Isn't, something stupid slow for the speed?
Yeah. Yeah, and part of it is that each game, like the controller is built into the game cartridge. It's hard for people to understand, but like it has one joystick, and then each game has a separate control pad built into the game cartridge. All that rustling sound you just heard was me opening the box here. So yeah, you can see why people don't emulate it, because it's kind of a pain to do anything with.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear what the outcome of that is.
Yeah. Hopefully it works. So, anything interesting with you?
No, just those games, and not working on all my programming projects, just because work's crazy, life's crazy. Digging through snow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really it for me. Should we get into some news?
Yeah, let's do that.
I figured the first one was mine, and I picked it because I knew it would enrage you.
Good.
It
certainly does.
Yeah, your least favorite controller company, Kickstarting Group, is coming out with a new next-gen Dreamcast controller, which is a great idea. It looks pretty, but so did their other controller.
Yeah. So this is the Retro Fighters team, who I received not one but 2 defective N64 controllers from. By the way, if anybody wants those controllers, I will throw them in my trunk when I go to Midwest Gaming Classic, and you can take them off my hands. So,
don't you have a few parts,
maybe everybody
too?
else but me got good controllers? I don't know. Just they're batting 0% with me.
Well, didn't they send you a button that literally was the wrong size for any buttonhole in the controller?
Yeah, that was one of the problems. So they didn't send me 2 defective controllers. They sent me a defective controller and then a defective repair kit for the defective controller.
And how much time are you actually going to spend on fixing something that's new?
Yeah. So the first batch of controllers they shipped, people complained about the shoulder buttons, because the shoulder buttons were like hitting the analog stick. And they said, hey, we've got a kit where you can replace the shoulder button. But it wasn't just a shoulder button replacement. It actually, like, the whole internal casing changed. So really, you were changing most of the controller. And then one of the C buttons that came with this did not fit in the C hole. That you might want to bleep that.
Yeah.
So it didn't fit in the the port where you're supposed to put the button. So I had a choice of either a controller with a non-functional shoulder button or a controller with a non-functional C button. And I decided I don't want either of those, and it's just sitting, it's literally in a bag here in my closet, and I will gladly give it away to anybody who wants it.
Yeah, because it's cool if it works, but if it doesn't, it's not retro, and if you're a collector like I am, there's just no space for stuff like that.
Yeah, I was mostly excited about it because I use a Nintendo 64 controller on my PC.
Mm-hmm. This would just make it easier.
Yeah, so I'm like, this would be a cooler... I've been using the same Nintendo 64 controller for like 15 years, and I don't know how much life it has left in it. Shoulder button and C button both work on it still, so there's that. But anyhow, if you want to back this...
Yes, our link will be in the show notes. If you click on the FAQ link on their Kickstarter page, they have a link, or they actually say, like, if you have any questions, click on the FAQ and ask a question. And there are none. So
Yeah.
nobody is interested. But it is February 18th, and they have $74,000 already pledged of a goal of $13,000. So, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll get funded. I mean, the reality is, despite my experience, I think they still have a good reputation overall.
Yeah. Yeah, because they tried to right all their wrongs. How do you get that button size wrong? That's just a weird one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean they produce a lot of different controllers. They've done, this isn't like their first time through, so it is kind of surprising to me. Like I was legitimately surprised when the first controller I got from them was defective, and then I was pretty confident, like, oh no, they're going to get this right now. So, you know what? It's to me this one's kind of a gamble.
I picked this news just for you, so I can't wait
Yeah.
for us to report on it
Yeah.
later.
So when it's like, oh yeah, sometimes it causes sometimes it ejects the VMU at 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, exploding VMUs, yeah. Well, hopefully it actually has the cable on the right side of the controller, unlike the original Dreamcast controllers.
Yes, that alone would be a big improvement. It really would. It's funny. I've never played a Dreamcast until I owned one. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. But just because the time of my life when Dreamcast came out, it was like last semester of college, and I was working full time, and I was just not interested in Dreamcast.
Yeah. But
And then,
sorry,
and then
go on.
when it went on clearance, I picked one up, and I'm like, well, clearance. I'm never gonna be able to look at the system again. I might as well buy one, right? When Sega announced they were discontinuing it, I rushed out and bought one, which people have not done with the PlayStation Classic. I went to Best Buy today, and they had a tower of PlayStation Classics literally taller than me there. But anyhow, so I rushed out, bought one, and yeah, it was my first impression was like, hey, what's up with this controller cable?
There's so many things wrong with it. But it is what it is. You actually segued into our next story. Walmart has PlayStation Classics at $40.
Yes, which is $14.99 cheaper than Best Buy right now.
So think about this. It's essentially a Raspberry Pi, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of power. If Raspberry Pis are what, $25 or $35? I always forget.
Depends on the model.
Okay. Well, let's just call it $25. They do not come with a power supply. They do not come with a case. They do not come with any memory, or any SD cards or anything. So by the time you get anything for your Raspberry Pi, you're already above $40. Mm-hmm.
Except the PlayStation Classic does not come with an AC adapter either.
I had no idea.
I know. Nobody knows that.
I had no
AC
idea.
adapter included. It has two. The controllers are good though.
Right there, that's worth it.
Yeah.
Right there, that's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one. I just never opened it.
Yeah. So then you would see that it doesn't have an AC adapter, and then you're stuck having to take one from your drawer of AC adapters that you have.
Yeah, my 7,000.
But yeah, so the things that we talked, I put this in the notes because we talked about, or maybe you put it in the notes because we talked about it last week. Mm-hmm. And I still think this is a great deal for a system because, again, it's a no mess project. If you just want to make, an emulation box, so far it only does PlayStation. I think it'll be expanded to do more. But if you want something where you're not going to be messing with it at all, you're literally just plugging a USB drive into the front. $40 is a great deal.
What a great deal. Yeah, and you have an HDMI out, you have two great controllers, and it just looks cool.
Yeah.
So why not? And while I'm hogging the news, the next two are mine, but they're actually one. Last week, Launchbox released version 9.4, and then the next day, 9.5, because it fixed a bunch of startup bugs. But if you don't know what Launchbox is, it's just a front end for all your emulating software. It looks really beautiful. If you pay them some money, you get a lot of cool extra features that look great on a TV. But this release gives you a lot of performance increases. It gives you a better theme downloader. It gives you a lot of some cooler themes for actual Launchbox. A lot of people just use the big box themes, which is the paid part of Launchbox. That gives you like a scroll wheel and stuff like that. And a big VLC update, which doesn't seem like it's important, but a lot of times you set up your emulation system so as you're scrolling through the games, it'll start playing videos of the game in the background. So I'm excited for this. I actually landed on Launchbox as my front end of choice right now. So, yeah, do you have any experience with that?
I do not, because it does not work on Linux.
That's right. It's a Windows-only thing.
Windows-only thing.
A few years ago,
awesome.
I jumped to the dark side of Windows.
Yeah. Nope. I have no Windows machines in my house at this point, other than, not counting my wife's machine because she has to have Word. I'm not going to be like, hey, can I borrow your... I know you need this for your work, but can I just try out Launchbox on it?
Yeah, not worth it.
It wouldn't go over quite as well as you would think.
It's not even worth doing a virtual machine for this. It's just...
Yeah.
Watch a video, Now,
it has some kind of Steam integration, which, of course, if you're a Windows gamer, you definitely have Steam. It would be weird if you didn't. Just like overall, it looks really cool. I wish I had a nice front end like this. There's not really... There is sort of an equivalent on Linux that I guess we're going to talk about later, but usually it's bundled like, here's an entire operating system with this sort of Launchbox type interface on it, versus here's a standalone program that's just, just the emulator front end.
Yep. And yeah, in this one, in a few episodes, I'm going to be talking about a certain aspect of this one, but we'll get into that in a different episode. Mm-hmm. Next one is yours.
Great. What was it? Tiny Pac-Man. This is cool. So there's a company making a series of portable arcade games that they claim are the size of a credit card. They're probably a little bit thicker than a credit card. And they're doing Pac-Man and Tetris at a minimum, and it looks like Space Invaders is someone else's system. They're using it to compare size-wise. So it's called Tiny Arcade, 4-inch fully playable arcade cabinets, but pocket-sized. And I realized you could just put these things on your phone. Of course, I could put Pac-Man on my phone, I guess. So this is more for people who want to collect weird little oddball portable systems, like me. I buy all kinds of junk like this.
We should clarify that the screen isn't 4-inch. The entire thing is 4-inch, like a credit card.
Yeah, the entire thing. Now, I have a keychain Pac-Man system, but it's like a miniature arcade cabinet. And it looks like it's definitely running like an arcade ROM, except it's slower. So I'm hoping that these guys get the speed on it right, because this would be a cool thing. It does look like there's a notch. You could probably turn this into a keychain system if you wanted to.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It looks like it's $20 to $25.
Yeah, they haven't officially launched it yet. They're going to debut it, I guess. Well, I guess soon. It says New York Toy Fair, which I guess is going on now. And
yeah, I think that was this weekend.
Yeah, it was this weekend. I forget how late in February it is. I saw it said February 16th, 19th, and I'm like, it's 2 weeks from now. That's way off.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. This looks... They've done some other miniature toys before. They've done other... it looks like they actually are the same people who made the Keychain arcade game I'm talking about. But there, you can tell the Keychain arcade is clearly... The entire thing is just on one chip because of the shape of the thing. And this has a small... maybe not Pi Zero board, but something comparable to a Pi Zero. So maybe it'll do a little bit better.
Looks like it charges through USB, micro USB. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just assuming that because I don't know what else they would use that for.
No, it mentions in the article that there's
okay.
For USB. The Tetris one is probably the one I'm more interested in, because that seems like the kind of game you actually would carry around and just fire up once in a while.
The color of that one's really cool. I mean, it looks communist. Right. It just looks like when you think of Tetris. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Pac-Man one's beautiful too.
Yeah, it's like the Tetris arcade cabinet theme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll be picking up a few of these. I mean, I have to. I think I have an addiction.
Yeah, I have addiction for those in the My Arcade cabinets. I keep buying the little My Arcade systems, but I'll
I
save
haven't.
that for when I do one of these as a featured game. I have, geez, like 6 or 7 of those little My Arcades. The other thing I learned today from my trip shopping is that people who were scalping those kind of three-quarter scale arcade cabinets that came out last year,
Yeah,
what were those called?
I forget.
They had
They
like
were
a
at
Rampage
Walmart or
one.
something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they first were launched, I know people were buying them and scalping them. But like if you go to Walmart, they have, I don't know, 2,000 of them stacked up in the video game section. So
And those were a project too, right? You had to put them together.
yeah, it was a good. I assume it was like a good afternoon project. It didn't look too difficult. I was sort of like the Rampage one, just because my kids like Rampage a lot. At least my youngest kid does. So I was kind of thinking Rampage would be a good one to get, but I've also heard, like I've stood next to one of those, and like even with the riser, it's still not tall enough. Like I'd have to sit to play it. There's no way I could stand and play that machine.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It just seems like something people would build and then use once and they would collect dust.
Yeah, probably. Maybe not the Street Fighter one, but the others.
Yeah, speaking of Tetris, Tetris 99.
Yeah, this is weird. So I was going to talk about Tetris later in the show here. But just by coincidence, there's Tetris news. So there's a new variant of Tetris out that is Battle Royale mode Tetris. I guess because every game has to be a Battle Royale game now.
I'm hearing amazing things about this. I haven't played it yet just because of time restrictions. I'm definitely going to play this. I've never played a Battle Royale anything unless you count like Quake Arena, you know, 2 decades ago. But I'll give this a go. You know, why not?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's sort of like if you used to play Bust a Move or something in the arcade against people. If you play 2-player Bust a Move or Puzzle Bobble, as it's sometimes known, like there's a whole thing where as you pop bubbles, they appear on your opponent's screen, and all the Dr. Robotnik and the other Kirby's Avalanche are the same game, have that same mechanic too. So this is really just same idea. Like as you break levels, it can send stuff over to opponents, but on like a much more massive scale. I mean, it's like you're in a battle against, I can't even count how many opponents are on the screen with you while you're playing this.
99.
Oh, is that where the name comes
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
Oh, I thought they just threw 99 in because it sounded cool.
But I could see a lot of people rage quitting this, thinking they're great at Tetris, and they aren't.
Yeah. I'm tempted. I just don't like. If there's no chat feature, maybe I'll try it. If there's no possible way to communicate with the other people playing, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give this a go. I mean, I say that now, but I just have a stack of games that I need to get to before this one, and by the time I'll get to this one, no one will be playing it.
Yeah. So then you can dominate it.
Yeah, or just play by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I always love those stories. I hope we get one soon about like last person to be on a particular game network. Those are always great. Like where someone documents like they're literally the last person logged into it to an online game.
Or maybe I'll be the person that does like a Phantasy Star Online thing where I reverse engineer the code in 30 years and start up my own Tetris 99 server.
Could be. Yeah, that we should put somewhere on our topic list the people running Phantasy Star Online servers today.
Yeah, I'm very interested to know how much time they spent.
Yeah, I mean, I assume once the thing's running, you don't really... once it's running, do you really need to do anything else, right?
No, you play Phantasy Star Online unless you're sick of it by then.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're only playing it because you just... but you don't maybe you just like running the server, you don't like playing the game. That's why I want to talk to these people.
Yeah, I will make a note of that. What else do we have in news?
Yeah, now in terms of like crazy do-it-yourself projects, this is a very complicated one. We're trying to do like, again, we're officially one episode in now and trying to get a feel for what kind of projects we want to include on here. I think this one is a no-brainer. This is the TRS-80 network interface card project.
I think this is my favorite topic of the week, favorite news of the week. This is cool.
Have you used a TRS-80?
No, because I had an Apple II GS and then I had a 386, and everyone called it a trash 80, so I just went along with them. But anything, I'm really into like Apple II modding now, all the new stuff coming out, so this is right up my alley.
Yeah. So I've used one because we had them when I was in junior high. And even though I feel old, I'm not old enough that the TRS-80 was a new computer when I was in junior high. They were already considered obsolete computers at that point. So learned a little bit of programming on them. Played a bunch of Oregon Trail on it, of course.
I believe it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this, too, is that there is no way the TRS-80 is capable of handling SSL encryption, which every single website or anything on the internet has now. So I wonder what, other than connecting to other TRS-80s, can you do with this?
So mostly this is used to connect to an online, they call it store, but it doesn't seem like, I haven't figured out if they're charging money for anything yet. But it's mostly used to connect to an online service that a diehard TRS-80 fan has. So this card adds a TCP/IP to the TRS-80. They aren't selling the card, at least I can't find a link to buy the card. But what they do have is a link to a GitHub project that has the schematics for building the card.
Oh, I love this.
Right, so that is hardcore do-it-yourself at this point. I mean, the board looks simple, but I'm sure it's very hard to do. Like, I could not do this because I am not real good with hardware mods.
So is this a one-use tool? Does it only go to that site, or can you use it for anything else?
They say, well, it has the sockets API, so you could anything that you can do with TCP/IP, you could program something to use this card with. Right, so you could, in theory, it would be very difficult, but you could, in theory, do like a links browser. You could not do links on it. You could do a links-like browser.
Yeah.
On it, perhaps.
Or like a MUD or something like that.
Yeah, something very, very simple, because you're dealing with a system that doesn't have a whole lot of memory. It
does say encrypted, so I wonder if it has some kind of built-in encryption.
Interesting. I don't know. I would have to look. I didn't read through the source because
you have a job and a family.
Right. Yeah. All those things. Yes. I don't know if it's I just don't know. I don't know if it's a simple like. It can't be a particularly complex encryption algorithm. I guess if you're worried that someone is going to intercept your TRS-80 game downloads.
Yeah. Tandy and Radio Shack, two companies who are thriving right now, are going to come after you with all their lawyers.
Yeah, they might. You never know. So the people that do this also have a TRS-80 emulator for Android, and their Android emulator also connects to their retro store that you can use to pull down TRS-80 apps.
I'm really into this.
Yeah.
This may consume a lot of my time over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and like this online store has a bunch of homebrew games, mostly homebrew games, it looks like. So, free. I don't know how free. Some of these are like remakes of commercial games. Like they have a Donkey Kong game on here. So, as long as Nintendo doesn't find out about that, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, cool. That is definitely my favorite story of the week.
Yeah, it's exciting. I would, if I ever had like a much, much, much larger house, I would definitely have a retro computer room. That's the problem. Like stuff like having a TRS-80 or Apple II or Amiga or whatever. It's just such a big space requirement. You just have to have the room for it all.
I have a stupid giant retro computer collection, and we moved to this current house about 2 years ago. And before that, we moved from a similar size house, but the other one had a larger basement that I had an entire room dedicated to it. And as we go through other projects deeper into this podcast, I'll go into a lot of those stories. Now, since this basement is a lot smaller, my office at work has a lot of old Macintoshes and Silicon graphics machines, and the younger kids make fun of me. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have any information about any of these news items or we were wrong about anything, please shoot us an email. Email at retrogameclub.net. Apparently now we are on iTunes, finally.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at that yet.
Yeah. We got an email. So it's, at this point, a rumor that we're on iTunes. On to the topic of this episode. I chose this topic. It is a whole retro console emulation operating system called Lakka, which apparently is Swedish or Finnish or something for Cloudberry. Finnish for Cloudberry.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does sound like a piece of IKEA furniture, so I believe that.
Yes. And so what this is if you've ever used Kodi for watching videos or anything, those developers built a Linux distribution called LibreElec. I think I pronounced that right. I've never had to say it out loud before. But it is a very lightweight, only what you need Linux. It doesn't even have an easy way to get other apps onto it. Well, the guys at RetroArch and LibRetro forked that and created this. So all this is a Linux with RetroArch, which is the front end to LibRetro, which is something we'll talk about in different podcasts, but a way to emulate a lot of systems.
Yeah, now I have not used this one yet. You told me about this like before we recorded our first episode, and I'm actually pretty curious to try it out. I think I might wait. I think there's supposed to be like a Raspberry Pi 4 released pretty soon. I've heard some rumors of it, so I'm like, I think I'm going to try this emulation box again with this instead of RetroPie. Because this looks... I don't know if there's a huge difference between them, but this looks like something that would be fun. I have one Raspberry Pi here using LibElec. I don't know how it's actually pronounced either. But to run a Kodi box.
Yeah. But this runs on all the RetroPies you could think, 0 through 3, B+, generic PC, so your x86s of the world, and all your other system on it. What are they called? SBCs. What's that stand for again? It's been a long day. All your Raspberry Pi competitors. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, their website here has... I mean, I haven't even heard of... I've heard of maybe half these things, but things like the Hummingboard, the Odroid, which I assume is a box meant to run Android, a bunch of WeTech equipment, Banana Pi, Orange Pi, things that are just ripping off.
Pretty original, yeah.
Very original name there. A lot of these something maker boards. It's got a lot of options. I mean, chances are if you're into this kind of the very, very small PC, you probably have something. It doesn't have the Onion, the Omega Onion 2, the little thing that's like the size of your thumbnail.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
I had one of those, and then I ended up. Long story short, I gave it to someone at my office who was trying to do a home sprinkler. He was trying to build it was a story about his mom was getting old and he was going to automate her sprinkler system or something. and he needed a really small computer. So I'm like, oh, well, here, I'm not doing anything with this one. And I believe he actually got it working, which is a weird, do-it-yourself project. But I guess,
that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, because you have to like figure out the sprinkler part too. But anyhow, that's not on here, and that thing is roughly hardware equivalent to the Pi Zero. So that's why I was kind of surprised not to see it on there. But
I'm sure someone's complaining about it in their forums. But I actually did find a big bug in this one. If you had too many ROMs, which, first world problem, it would stop displaying your images, like your box art. And when I posted that, everyone jumped on it. It's now fixed. The support for this is great because the people behind RetroArch and LibRetro, I think, are helping them a lot, or that's what I assume, because I saw a lot of names that were familiar to me. But yeah, this is as easy as setting up your RetroPie. You just download an image, use DD in Linux or Rufus or whatever other applications you use to copy images to SD cards, and you're good to go.
now, here's the thing that's really appealing about it for me, is it seems to have built-in support for a couple controllers. So it has Bluetooth support, of course. So it's got built-in support for DualShock, Wii Remote, of course the 8-bit DO, 8-bit DO. I don't know.
8-bit DO. Yeah.
Is that the correct way to pronounce it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But this, I didn't see this until now. This is so awesome. The Wii U GameCube adapter. So it's a USB plug, right? That lets you hook up 4 controllers to the Wii U, which is great for like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers. That's what we use it for. But if you wanted to run like Rampage or something, or Gauntlet, right? This is great. I think this is really, really amazing that it has Wii U GameCube adapter support, because that's still a thing you can buy. Like, you maybe can't get the official Nintendo licensed one anymore, but like Hori and other companies make compatible ones. So it's all Smash Brothers. I mean, I'm not like a big... Even though I don't like Smash Brothers that much, I really like what the Smash Brothers community... I like how they influence Nintendo, because it makes, things like this GameCube adapter possible. Like, that would not exist without completely psycho Smash Brothers fans.
Absolutely, yeah. It brings out the serious gamers, the serious coders. Not that people that don't like Smash aren't serious gamers. I haven't played it since, Nintendo 64.
Yeah, but if you were to like rank the most like die-hard fan bases, Smash Brothers is pretty high.
Yeah, absolutely. But this thing, I've used this a lot. It's very easy. You don't have to... If you want to upgrade the operating system, it's the click of a button. And then you reboot and you're good to go. Can't say enough nice things about this. I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you'll probably have 7 or 8 Raspberry Pis sitting in a desk drawer. Give it a go.
Since you've used this, does this have... I didn't see it on here. Touchscreen support.
That I do not know. But just because I didn't use it on touchscreen, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, the Kodi one I have has it, which is great, because I'm trying to do like a no keyboard thing for these. I know you can do like a Bluetooth keyboard. I get all that.
So I'm wondering if that's just part of LibreElec.
Yeah.
The touchscreen part. Because this one thing I couldn't find is LibreElec is the bare minimum, but I couldn't find a list anywhere of what is that, So again, any listeners out there, please email us if you know anything we don't.
Yeah.
Which is probably a lot. I don't have much else to say about this one. It's a very simple project. And it's something I've been doing also. I've used it way before this podcast existed. Yeah,
I mean, I think it looks like a good alternative to RetroPie, which I've used. I thought it was fine. The only problem I had, I don't think was really a RetroPie problem. It's that for whatever reason, it kept wiping out my controller settings. But in all fairness, I was using I had the stack. I have USB adapters for every controller ever made, I think. And I was trying out different ones, and maybe I messed it up somehow.
Yeah.
But if you just have Bluetooth support out of the box for, again, like Wii controllers or DualShock controllers, that's a pretty, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I have no negative things to say about this at all. So, good job, Lakka. Keep it up. And I encourage all of you to check it out and support them.
Yeah.
What do we got next? Game Club. We chose 2 games this week.
Mm-hmm.
You chose Tetris. I chose Golden Axe. We did want to. We said this long-windedly in episode 0, but I want to say it quickly again. We're starting out. At least I am starting out choosing pretty basic games, very available games. I will stray into picking more, let's just say I'm saving some games for later episodes. But, yeah, Tetris Golden Axe, everyone knows them.
I'm probably going to stick with...
What do you have to say about Tetris?
I'm sure it will change my mind at some point, but I'm generally going to go with more, multi-platform games. Again, because for me lately, it's been, at least in the past, maybe I've always been this way, but in the past 1 or 2 years, I've been really kind of fascinated with trying games out on different systems, games that exist on more than one system, and really, comparing them and seeing which version's better, or which version, maybe not so much which version's better, but which version does certain things better.
Yep.
And then also for people who want to try some of the games that we talk about, I think it's better, for me at least, if I'm talking about stuff where it's oh yeah, I have that. I'm not talking about Dungeon Explorer 2, which nobody has a copy of.
Yeah, and there's no way to get it on Steam or something like that.
Yeah. I guess you could get the Super Famicom version that has a different name.
You could get it by flying to Japan or pirating it.
Yeah, that's about it. But anyhow,
Tetris.
So, which game do you want to talk about first?
You want to start with Tetris?
Yeah, we can start with Tetris. So, I don't think I have to explain the premise of Tetris to anybody, being that if you've ever played a video game, you've probably played Tetris at some point. Even people who do not play video games know what Tetris is. But lately, I've been playing quite a bit of Tetris lately, surprisingly. It's a game I haven't played for a while. Played it a lot when it was new. Like everybody on Earth,
on Game Boy? On Game Boy when it was new?
I played on Game Boy when it was new, and I played it on NES when it was new.
Yep, same here.
And I really wasn't even aware that there were other versions. I always thought it was a Nintendo game, because I was a kid. What did I know? And I was probably a teenager, which I think you actually know less as a teenager than you do as a kid. I actually think it declines for a few years.
I agree.
Based on my experience having a teenager. So, and then one day I saw it at Alan's Castle, and it just surprised me. I'm like, Tetris at Alan's Castle, and it says Atari or not Nintendo on it. I'm all confused. My whole view of the world has been shattered. And you didn't have the internet. There was no way to go and find out, why is there this Atari Tetris? And why is it an arcade game? And why does it seem like kind of a stripped-down version of the NES game? And then you find, Tetris was developed in the Soviet Union, and I'm not going to go through the whole backstory of how Tetris came to America, because there's many books that do a much better job than I will describing it. But what Tetris to me is, it's a great example of how, Nintendo can take a game concept, a really good game concept, and turn it into a great game concept. So,
it was made for their systems.
Right. Exactly, yeah. Even though, so if you play the older PC versions of Tetris, which of course I played after the NES version, they're still fun and they're still addictive, but they're not as colorful, and the controls are just a little bit less good. I don't know if that's the right term. Nintendo really fixed the controls on that game. Where, and then the music, Nintendo added this really great music that has this kind of Russian feel to it. They could have probably just taken some Tchaikovsky songs and turn them into chip tunes, but they actually had like new songs that were in sort of that style.
Which were infectious. I mean, anyone listening now, it probably has that song in their head.
Oh yeah,
just because you mentioned it.
Yeah, and then you go to like Overclocked Remix, and there's all these different great remixes of it. It's for a game that had like 3 songs, it has a hugely memorable soundtrack.
So which versions did you play? Let's go through the versions you played and your favorites and least favorites.
So, well, I'll go with the ones I played in the past like 2 weeks, not all time, because that would take forever. But the ones I primarily played were the NES version, and then again was on emulator, the Virtual Boy version, which is it's not 3D Tetris, but they actually have a Tetris game on Virtual Boy that's sort of like Tetris Easy Mode.
Okay.
So it's like Tetris, but like when your piece lands, you actually have like a second that you can still move it left and right before it locks into place. So it makes the game a lot easier.
Okay. That's on the Virtual Boy version?
Yeah, it's on the Virtual Boy version. Okay. Whereas the Nintendo version is just straight up Tetris, and you have no time once your piece, touches another piece to change it. But what I was inspired by, most with the NES version, was I was watching some of these championships, player versus player Tetris championships, and trying to understand, like, okay, how could I improve my Tetris score? Like, my all-time Tetris score is probably around 220,000 beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched some videos to try and figure out, like, what are the kind of their techniques. And I was just sort of practicing and trying to apply some of those techniques that I saw. And I think I got up to about 260,000. I took a screenshot, but of course I wasn't smart enough to open it before we started recording. My goal is to try and get myself up to 300,000. If I can break 300,000 in Tetris, then I will stop playing it for at least 5 years. That's been my goal here, is just try and get myself to a place where I can break 300,000.
And you have not hit that goal.
I have not hit that goal, no.
Not on any version.
Not on any version. I didn't look at the score on the other versions, because some of the other versions score differently. I'm sticking with the NES version. And of course, went back, tried the Game Boy version, which is in some ways more, I don't know how to put it, like the Nintendo version is more colorful, but the Game Boy version, there's just something slightly more addictive about it. Maybe it's the music, that I actually like the Game Boy music better than the NES music on just this one game only. I don't know how weird that sounds, but it could just be like the thing you played first is the one that's burned in your brain as being best.
Yeah.
Right? There's probably some term for that tendency people have.
Could you wire 2 Game Boys together and play against each other, or is that strictly one player?
I don't know. I believe it was one player game. I have all the hardware somewhere in one of these drawers to do a 2-player one. I don't remember there being like a competitive mode, like, where there's definitely nothing where like you send blocks over to your opponent or anything like that.
Yeah, there's no Tetris 2 instead of Tetris 99.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. There is a Tetris 2 on the NES they introduce more like new shapes. Only the shapes, the blocks aren't always all connected. So there'll be like gaps in the shapes that come down. Kind of annoying. So
yeah, I stayed away from all those playing the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All the sequels I stayed away from.
Yeah, you gotta... Most of the sequels are, not as good as the original. Now, I've heard Tetris Effect is as good, if not better, than the original. I don't have it yet.
Yeah, I mean, a few podcasts rated it Game of the Year. So, I mean, you're going up against some, God of War, Spider-Man type games, and Tetris is getting Game of the Year. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I should probably just go ahead and order that.
So what do you think about the arcade version?
Was never a fan, but it's hard for me to say, like, am I biased, again, because I played the NES and Game Boy versions first?
So this week I tried an arcade version, but I played it by myself, but it was still split screen, so it looked like it was just like an empty half a screen waiting for a second player to play. And that's why after 10 minutes of playing it, I just stopped because I thought I was missing something. I don't know if it was just the version I had, or It was not as good. The NES and the Game Boy got it right. I happened to get what must have been one of the first DOS versions, and it was unplayable.
Yeah, so the early, like the arcade one you mentioned, yeah, that was 2 players, and then the unlicensed Nintendo version, the one that was out for like a couple weeks, and
The
then
Tengen, however you
lawsuits.
pronounce it.
Yeah, the Tengen. I always call it Tengen. It could be Tengen.
Me too. I pronounce it the same way. I like that version, not as much, but I like it. And actually, a buddy of mine back when it was new had a version, and I'm sure he sold it for $1. And now I think those are actually worth money.
Yeah, because it was pulled from store shelves.
Very quickly, right?
Yeah, yeah. Again, all like lawsuits. It was essentially like, I think Game Over, press start to continue tells it best. I don't remember if Console Wars talked about this too. I don't think it was in Console Wars.
Yeah, I don't think it did. They did either.
Yeah, but the short version is that Atari thought they had the rights to sell a console version of Tetris, but they really didn't. And the Nintendo secured the rights to the console version. And it all comes out to like weird kind of backroom or fuzzy deals between, at the time, the Soviet government and the various people that held the rights to Tetris, the distribution rights to Tetris.
What do you think about that version, though? The Tengen version?
I not a fan.
Did you play it this round?
I did not play it this round because I remember
you already knew.
Not liking it very much.
Yeah.
Just it wasn't what I felt nostalgic about and wanted to fire up.
Now, I searched for other versions. Let me see what I played quickly. That may have been the only... what was that? 3 DOS... I played DOS, NES, and arcade. Well, the 2 NES ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's even more than one DOS version out there.
Oh, I'm sure. Official games. Okay, so Game Boy, PC, NES, Amiga, DOS.
Yeah, I mean,
many
MSX,
different ones. Yeah.
Various Sharp computers. Depending what region you're in, you may have gotten on one of those. What else here?
I mean,
you probably mentioned Mac.
iPhones.
Apple II. Yeah, I played the Apple II version somewhat recently too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great.
No, it has cool backgrounds. Like it adds really cool backgrounds, but the game itself does not play especially well. I mean, in this game, it's back to like, I want to live in some sort of fantasy world where other games that were like pretty good ideas but not awesome all get turned over to Nintendo in 1988. And then Nintendo turns them into great games, which is kind of what they did here. They found something that was like I said, it was a great concept, and we're gonna fix it up and turn it into something really awesome.
Oh yeah, the Apple II GS had a variant too, which looks really pretty, and that was my first computer, so you will hear me talk about it more than people should talk about Apple II GSs on this podcast. Anything else to say about Tetris?
No. I hopefully everyone has played it, and if not, you need to get some version of it, preferably the NES version. But there's really not again, we've been a little harsh on some of the versions. There's really not a version of Tetris that I would go so far as to say is bad. Like the basic puzzle mechanic is always fun, even though some versions it's better executed than others.
For me, it's when you push down and then the Tetris, or that's what they're called, Tetris somethings. The shapes immediately go to the bottom of the screen. When I hit down, I just want to speed them up a little bit, and that's just me because that's the version I played first.
Right, because the DOS version, I remember you hit the space bar and it drops instantly. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I turned it on, played it for 5 seconds, and said no thank you.
Yeah, but see, that's one of those little things that Nintendo figured out and got right.
So moving on, since we've been talking about Tetris since the beginning of the episode, Golden Axe is my choice. I'm sure all of you have played it. And I picked this just because it was the game that every time I saw it in the arcade, I was always popping a lot of quarters in it. I never had it on Genesis, even when I had a Genesis, when it was new-ish or still purchasable in stores. I played the Genesis version, the arcade, Amiga, and DOS, and your favorite version, TurboGrafx. I would have to say arcade beats them all. Amiga, very close second. And then Genesis, and then the rest just don't. The DOS and the TurboGrafx version, I mean, how did that not cause another arcade meltdown?
Yeah.
Like in 1983.
They were bad enough to actually tank the market?
The whole market. And I do have to say the TurboGrafx version has amazing interludes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like anime style stories that were really cool. And then it pops you into this game that, I mean, the colors aren't even close. And the TurboGrafx is a very capable machine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just have to look. If you do a comparison of like Street Fighter 2 on TurboGrafx to Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo or Genesis, like, if you
Very
just look
close.
at screenshots, yeah, they're very close. And this, I had joked that if you showed me a screenshot from the TurboGrafx version, I played it today, by the way, just in case I thought I was being overly harsh.
You weren't.
If you took a picture and said, this is the NES version of Golden Axe, unreleased, I would 100% believe you.
And say you could do better on the NES, probably.
Yes. Well, I mean, the Master System version is better.
Oh, I didn't even see that one. I'll have to try that. So, yeah, Golden Axe, you could pick between 3 characters. For the past many days, or the first many days, I always chose the dwarf-looking guy. Is that what he is?
Dwarf, yeah.
Yeah, and just because he's the only one dressed appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize until, I think, 2 days ago that the characters you choose between the dwarf, the woman, and the warrior guy, he's the hardest. If you pick the warrior, he's kind of in the middle, and if you pick the woman, she's the easiest. And I did notice this, and it seems like their special power when they throw up the potion and then it hurts everyone on the screen. She tends to cause more damage. And also I noticed when the evil women, also not dressed very appropriately, hit him and knock him down, they laugh. But when they don't do that to the other characters, or they didn't, at least in the versions I played and noticed. I wish they would go over that, I guess there weren't online manuals back then built into the games, but pretty difficult game, very quick game, if you want to beat it all the way through.
Yeah, it's a short game. I first played it on the Genesis, and I think I won it the first time I played it. I really do. I don't think I played it for more than an hour or so, it felt like. No, I always played it as the dwarf too, and I actually found that he was the easiest, but I think it depends on your play style, because I don't really ever use magic. I mostly just do the dwarf's running headbutt attack.
That also took me a long time to figure out that you have to do that almost on every screen.
Yeah.
I didn't do that for the first week I was playing this. First week, this time around. You just die all the time when you don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when you're like in a boss fight. It was like the 2 kind of tall King Kong Bundy guys with the chest straps and the shaved head. Those guys.
Yeah,
yeah. You get them on like either side of you, and you just go back and forth like Daniel Bryan, left and right against you got a guy in each corner, and you do the running jump on each of them, something like that. So it's yeah.
But you need your timing right, or they'll get you first. And once my timing was off, it was hard for me to get back to it. But I beat it with the woman. Manny continues. Oh yeah, and I should point out that if you have a Switch, for not much money, there's the 50 Genesis Classics. This and Golden Axe 2 are on it. That's what I played mostly this week. The very great port. You know, it's not the arcade port, but it's the Genesis port, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, it's on the Genesis port is on like every Sega collection that's ever been made, including like Sega collections for the Sega, right? Like on this, the Sega CD has a Sega Genesis collection that has Golden Axe. Good old Dreamcast has a collection with Golden Axe. All the, PS2 and above, PSP and higher Genesis collections all have Golden Axe. Everybody has Golden Axe.
So this is like every PlayStation has Wipeout. Every Sega system had Golden Axe.
Yes. Yeah, some collect. Well, maybe not the Sega. Let me think about this. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess maybe not in America, because there was the Sega Ages stuff, and I don't think America got all the Sega Ages. We got some of them, but not all. The Saturn, it's weird. It's a system I like. I actually subscribe to a Saturn podcast just to try and get up to speed on the Saturn, because it's like a system I worked at a game store when it launched, and then I went off back to college and never thought about working in a game store again. Other than writing about it, I never thought about actually going back and doing that again.
Yeah.
But you get my point. So the Saturn is sort of like a black hole system for me, because I got it way after the system was dead. And I have, a small collection for it, but a few favorite games. But there's a lot about it the system I don't know. And one of the things I don't know a lot about are these Sega Ages discs, and which ones came to America and which ones didn't.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're not collecting on Saturn now, because it's a very expensive system now to collect for.
No, definitely not. I do occasionally find them at Goodwill or yard sales or something. It's very rare, but I will find Saturn games from time to time.
It does look like they had, and I should point out that, there are many sequels to this game, and Saturn has one of them, Golden Axe Duel. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about Golden Axe. I think most of you have played it. It's pretty fun. It's a bit infuriating at points, at least for me, but yeah, it was just a game I figured it was good to start out this whole podcast project with, because I figured, just like Tetris, most of us have it and have opinions about it.
Yeah, you don't have to prep much to talk about it, because it's a game you've probably played quite a bit, and it's a fairly simple game. And it's fun. Clearly, it's an arcade game. Right? That's kind of the disappointing thing. Like, you get a Genesis version, and you finish it the first time you play it. Maybe you use a couple continues. You kind of have to keep in mind it started as an arcade game, and having arcade games that are like 20 stages or something is kind of absurd. So
yeah,
a 6 or 7 stage arcade game is perfectly reasonable, because that probably takes $5 and quarters out of your pocket.
But you could, if you're playing it alone, you could play 3 times, once as each character. And I will say the ending is really good. It's worth beating this game. Yeah. And it has the same ending as the arcade too.
Oh, see, I haven't played the arcade through to the ending. I do like on the Genesis, though, how it does like the cast of people you fought.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a really fun ending, and then what the weird thing is, like, most of the people who worked on the Genesis port then went on to do Phantasy Star 3. It's a very weird, they didn't have the Phantasy Star team work on Phantasy Star 3, because Phantasy Star 2 and 3 were developed kind of concurrently. So the Golden Axe team became the Phantasy Star 3 team. That's just a little weird nugget of Sega history.
Yeah, I had no idea. Which I'm sure both those 2 and 3 will be on here someday. Phantasy Star.
Yeah, Phantasy Star 2 would be a good one. I mean, either of them, but 2's it's an interesting game. I mean, great story, great characters.
Yep.
Hard to go back and play again, though.
Well, that's the thing. I watched a buddy. Oh, we shouldn't get into a Phantasy Star tangent.
We'll do Phantasy Star another time.
So if you have played these games, have opinions, please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net. Even if you are listening to this episode far in the future, and this podcast still exists, feel free to write us. We'll go back and talk about these games again. I would love to.
Yeah.
And we need to pick some new games for the next episode. Have you chosen one?
Yes, I'm going to do Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which is on, off the top of my head, 5 systems.
I only know of 2. I know of Genesis and TurboGrafx.
Yeah, it's on, there's obviously a PC version. I'm 80 to 90% sure there's a Philips CDI version. And then one that I actually own this game, but I can't play it. Tandy VIS version.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only Tandy VIS game I own.
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a bizarro find. I actually thought I was buying the DOS version. It was a shrink wrap game at a thrift store. I'm like, oh, Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. And it was I got it home. It was $1. Who cares? And then I got it home and I'm like, Tandy VIS. What am I going to do with this?
That's almost cooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now I got to find a Tandy VIS so I can play through this game again. I am admittedly one of the only people on Earth who really, really likes the Tandy VIS. Not the Tandy VIS, sorry, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, this is a rough one, but the whole point of this podcast is to get through these games, or at least get into them. And this was one of those games, and I won't talk about it long because that's what the next episode is for, but that I had a Turbo Duo when it was new. I had a TurboGrafx when it was new. I was the one kid, everyone else had a friend. I was the guy everyone was talking about. Yeah. And I got this game and immediately sold it back. It's just, I was a teenager. I liked, fast, hip, Genesis type games, but I didn't have a Genesis. So it'll be fun, I hope, to get back into this one.
Yeah, you should try it. And I think this is a pretty accessible game. I realize buying a Turbo Duo version is hard, but this was a pack-in for the Sega CD. And this is not a rare game, I don't believe.
Because they had to show video worked.
Yeah.
On the Sega CD.
Yeah, so you just got it. When you bought the Sega CD, it was just in the box.
So my game is Wings of Fury. This game was really popular on the Amiga, and I know I've mentioned the Amiga a few times this episode and last episode, but I never had one other than a video class in high school. But I did have this game on Apple II GS, and it's easily accessible on either DOS or Game Boy Color, which I didn't know till this week there was a Game Boy Color version. I watched a quick video of it. It's a great port. I plan on playing it a lot this week while I'm rage quitting Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if you've heard of Wings of Fury before this.
Yeah, I've heard of it, have not played it. I looked at it and just didn't seem like the kind of game I would get into. I'll give it a try. I'll try at least the Game Boy version, I predict. Maybe I'll try the Apple II version.
It looks like, if you like Choplifter, you'll love this game.
Okay. Well, I like Choplifter.
To me, it feels like it has the same mechanics, other than you don't land. If you land, you crash. But yeah, everyone, please play these games. We'd love to hear from you. We had no listener feedback this week because we were on almost nothing you could listen to us for to give us feedback.
Yes. So hopefully by now you can get to this from iTunes or other podcast downloading places. But the reason we're teasing the games of the week is because we'd like people to, email us for feedback so that when we're talking about these games in a week or two or whatever the designated period of time is, that we can read your stories or your memories about these games. Because I think this was your idea, and I think it'd be cool if we incorporated people's feedback while we're talking about the game.
Absolutely, it's like a book club, except you don't have to read unless you play Sherlock Holmes.
There's no reading, no reading involved in Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, because they just discovered how to fit it all on a CD-ROM and talk it to you.
Yeah, it does come with the newspapers that allegedly have small clues. I never found the newspapers to be particularly helpful.
Oh, that's a good hint, because I would have gone down that rabbit hole and sent you some angry texts.
Yeah, I can't. I've never found anything useful in the newspapers. But we'll talk later. And I actually talk about why I picked this game. I actually went back and replayed played one of the Sherlock Holmes games just this week, over the weekend. In next episode, whatever that period of time is, I will talk about what inspired me to play a Sherlock Holmes game. There's actually a backstory to that.
Well, cool. I can't wait to hear it. Everyone, thank you for listening. Email us at email@retrogameclub.net. And see you next episode.
Yep. Thanks for listening.